Good morning, everyone. I'm Jenny. Thanks for tuning in. Now, before I begin to talk about what's coming up this week, I am going live right here on YouTube on May 31st, 2 p.m. Eastern, 12 noon Mountain Standard Time, or 11 a.m. Pacific, giving you guys some free clairvoyant psychic readings. That's right. So if you want to ask me a question and tune in, make sure you're right here. Follow me on Instagram, Jenny G Cousins. My team posts, like postings up there and so on and so on. I'm all over social media. Just Google my name, you will find me. Okay, seriously. If you do want to book a reading, soulworkwithjenny.com. So now let's begin by subscribing to my channel. Hit that little red button down there in the corner so you'll get notifications coming up for you. Now, this week, you guys, we are entering the Gemini Super New Moon. Like, oh my goodness sakes, the 26th and the 27th of May. So I'm going to give you some insights, what to expect roughly from the 24th of May to the 29th of May, every single day. Going to give some zodiac predictions as well. We're just going to kind of shuffle it all up, see what messages are coming through, of course, from spirit. People ask me, what messages am I going to get? I'm like, well, I don't know. I stay in the moment. And you'll see that too on my YouTube channel as I'm doing readings. So I just kind of go with the moment. But anyways, let's talk about this Gemini full moon. Gemini has that kind of flirtatious energy. So you can expect some soulmate twin flame connections coming in. You could find that your person that you're like, oh my goodness, I've got my eyes on you or whoever it is. You might be a little bit more daring and reach out to that person, or maybe the person that you want, and you're like, oh, maybe that's when that person's going to contact you and say, hey, let's get together. Let's do something. I'm just saying it can be a very, very interesting new moon. And it's a super new moon, which represents that the energy is going to be more powerful. So new moons are, of course, new beginnings. It's more powerful than a full moon. So whenever there's new moon energy, it opens up new doors for new beginnings, like in a really good way. We get opportunities at any time. Of course, it doesn't mean we have to accept it. I turned down a television job offer. If I took that offer, I would not have time to do my readings at all. None. So I had to take a look at everything involved and say, this just isn't going to work for me. It was nothing about spirituality. It was nothing about this news. It was doing news reports and interviews and all kinds of things, which would have been awesome. But we're not going to go into that right now, right? So I said no. So for those of you have asked me that, that's why. There's more reasons to it. But anyways, so this new moon, like anything can happen. Like this new moon as well is expecting unexpected as well. So that's why I'm saying you could hear news from your person or the person you have your eyes on. Or maybe you're going to be like, I'm going to ask my person out on a date. Be brave, go for it. You might feel a little nervous, like new moons, they can make you feel more emotional and such like that. Like if you have not been resolving situations, this is when certain energies have a, indication of bringing things up that you've been ignoring as well. And you're like, oh my gosh. So just really pay attention to what messages are going to be incoming that day, 26, 27, 28 realistically, because the energy, you'll feel it a couple of days before and you'll feel it a couple of days after. Like I always say, like a new moon, full moon, take it for a week because you start to feel the energy coming in. You're like, why am I like not sleeping? Like, all of these things. And then it's like, okay, once the full moon is over, you're still going to have the after effects, as I call it. So this is a powerful time to set intentions, be very specific. You're going to find that you're going to be communicating a little bit more with other people. You're going to be more passionate and really pay attention to showing yourself compassion as well. We all do things or say things. We're like, why did I do this? Or why did I do that? And so on and so on. That's a part of our journey. That's how we learn. You know what I mean? So it's just really, really important. So if you want to have like a talk with someone, because it's very communicating, Geminis are very chatty, right? So, if someone wants to have a talk with you, especially something where you're like, I need to have a little bit more of a serious talk because new moons bring in endings, like sudden endings. This is the unexpected energy, sudden endings for jobs, situations, like endings with anything, right? But if somebody wants to have a talk with you, sit back and listen to what they say. You might not agree what they're saying at all. Let's just say, however, listen to what they have to say and then you can say what you have to say. But make sure that you are speaking your truth from your heart with the right intention, always, always, because you're going to start to see more clarity of why things didn't happen or why things ended, like all of that. You're going to start to see that more throughout this week, this new time as well. And when we start to see more clarity with situations, it can be really hurtful, you know? And also you can be like, that's why that didn't happen. That's why. Or maybe it's just not the right time, or spirit doesn't want you on that path. So new moons, I'm always like, okay, right, more emotional, all of those things, your sleep will be off. Really pay attention to your pets, and your loved ones, like your animals, of course, they're very sensitive. They're your psychic little companions. They can see everything, they can sense everything. I mean, even my dog Bella pointed out the cancer that I had, right? That's what brought me into my surgeries and so on and so on and so on. A long story. But you see what I mean? Things happen. Pay attention to what's truly going on and don't ignore that little voice. Don't ignore that little voice. You might be like, you know what, I just feel something, I don't know, it's not awe or it's just something, I don't know, like all of that, I don't know. Just really kind of pay attention to it. Don't freak out on it now. Just start writing it down. Just, like you can always book a reading with me and I can give you that clarity, of course, right? But just really be grateful for what you have, not what you don't have, not what you don't have, right? I'm really grateful for the smallest little things, like even being able to talk to you guys, like the smallest little things. I like to keep things simple as best as I can. There's just too much bullshit and stuff going on in the world. That's just going to continue on. Don't let it stop you from moving forward, right? That's what they want. They want the control, but don't get me started. And it's really important because what energy you send out, it comes back. It really does. It really does you know? So now the 24th and the 25th, let's just kind of back it up a couple of days. The 24th and the 25th, this is when Saturn enters Aries. You're going to find you could be more bold. You're going to be like, you know what? I need to face things. I really need to take responsibility for my life. Whenever something goes on, let's say for me, I take responsibility for what I've said and done, let's say, right? If something's not right, I'm going to be like, okay, well, was it something I said or did, or am I missing something? I don't point the finger and blame other people. I look at myself. If you're not happy with this or that, then end it, walk away, or start or begin something. So this is when you could be becoming more bold with things. Like you could see some struggles in relationships as well. And relationships is relationships in general with anybody. So if you've been struggling with a person or people, like whoever it is, this is when you're going to want to open up more. You know how this kind of falls into place with this new moon? You're going to start facing things more. You're going to want to be more independent. You're going to be like, you know what? I can't work here anymore. I want to start my own business, or I can't be with this. I need my time for me. I can't do this and this. I'm going to set more boundaries around me. You're going to be disciplining yourself even more, like whatever it is that you feel you need discipline. And like that literally could be anything, like anything. I'm going to discipline myself with this and this and that, and I just really want to resolve situations or misunderstandings, because that Gemini energy, we're in Gemini season, they're very chatty, as I said. So communication could be miscommunications. And also, I'm going to communicate more with what I want or to my person or all of these things. Listen to your heart, like really, really listen to your heart, because you could also be dealing with some family dynamics around the 24th and the 25th as well. And this is when it's like, you know what, I got to dedicate to me. I got to dedicate to this cause. I want to dedicate myself to like whatever it is, right? I could go on and on and on, but you'll know yourself. Now, if you're an Aries, you're gonna want to be like, you know what? I'm gonna really step into like leadership roles. I'm tired of being down here at the bottom of the floor. I really want to step it up and take some independence and leadership and expand my business or my network or connections, or I'm going to create this or that. You're going to have more of that oof to find a job, to, like whatever it is, right? Where if you're like a cancer sign, you might have a little bit more challenges with some growth. you know, it very well could be like growth in your career or public roles and such like that. So you could be like, why isn't things happening? Or I'm not happy with this. But what it comes down to, what did you learn? Like, what did you learn? Especially career wise, what you're doing. What did you really learn? I'm just not happy, or exactly, exactly. So you're going to be reviewing a little bit more on that, where with, and you could be a little bit more emotional as well. Really listen to your emotions. You know what I mean? Like emotions can go all over the place. But if it's something that you're at peace with, you're going to be fine. But if it's something that's just not right, you're going to be a little bit emotional because you're going to feel it even more. Where if you're a Libra, you're going to be balancing out relationships, and well, you're going to want to balance that, because if you've been the one that's been giving and giving and giving, you're going to be like, well, you know, I'm not getting anything back from my partner, let's say. When you're constantly giving, you block the universe from giving you back to receiving. It's the balance. It's the balance. I mean, I have a big heart, I give a lot, but then I have to set boundaries. I get tons of messages all day long. You'd have no idea how many messages I get in every day, right? And you have to set boundaries. You know what I mean? Like, just you're going to want that balance more in your relationships. Relationships could be family, relationships could be your partner, like all of that combined. So, where if you're more like Capricorn, you're going to be more focused on your career. You're going to be like, what am I really passionate about? How can I make this happen? How can I make this work? This is when you are going to start facing your fears even more, but you might feel a little uncertain, like, oh my God, what happens if I quit my job? Like, oh my God, like, I always recommend when let's say if you're working for somebody and you want to leave your job, make sure you have another job confirmed first. And then you can put in your notice to leave your job. Don't leave on bad terms, because you never know when, you need that reference. You never know when they could hire you back, or like all of those things. So this is the things like, okay, so you get a job offer to you. So, all right, well, what's all involved with it? And, there's always pros and cons, right? So just make sure no matter what it is, if it's like you're creating a business or whatever, like a new business takes time to, expand, to get going, and so on and so on. You have to have some money put aside to back things up. I mean, like even for me, many, oh, I'm not young, right? Like, oh my God. But when I first started out doing readings, I was a teenager, really. So I was reading for friends and basically, you know what I mean? And then of course I was working and that. And so I was balancing out work, full-time work. I was like a single mom with like a handicapped child, so I had to balance out working, taking care of my son, and also doing my readings. So until the readings build and build and build, and then you go through this transformation and so on and so on. So as you're transitioning into self-employment and such like that, if you want that, you got to really take a look at everything and just balance it out, right? So we're Geminis, you could be, of course, more creative. You could be like networking. There's going to be new doors opening for you. Like really pay attention to the new doors that are opening, with that new moon, new beginnings, right? For all of us. So when new doors open, that could be anything. It could be travels. It could be a new job. It could be a new relationship, like anything, right? But I'm hearing more so with Geminis, it's more connected with like with work more so. You could be following your passions, which can open up new doors for you in other areas. Like I do my photography as well, like it's a hobby, and believe me, I've opened up a lot of doors with that, met some amazing people and so on and so on, right? It's just a part of who you are as your soul, and what you do and such like that. Some people won't get it, but does that matter? Like, does it matter? Of course not, right? Of course not. Be yourself, be authentic. If you're going to be somebody or not, it's not going to work out, because in order for that to continue on, to open up new doors, you have to be at that vibrational frequency to make it happen, or else it's going to fall apart, right? And that's sometimes how you learn. It's like when people copy other people doing certain things and so on and so on, it falls apart. It goes right back onto them with karma and so on. So you have to be authentic, be yourself always. So now if you're a Virgo, you're going to find that you're going to want to have more balance with your career as well. You're going to be letting some fears go around that. It's like embrace your fears. What job do you want? What do you want to get going? Where if you're Sagittarius, you could find that there's more relationship harmony, within your new relationship or within your relationship. You're going to find that it actually could be like a flirty day, a lot of laughter and a lot of humor, and like, bantering back and forth and so on and so on. Where if you're Pisces, you're going to be a lot more creative, more chatty as well. So, you know, I go with the moment of what energy I'm kind of feeling for you guys and such like that too. So, you didn't read my sign or that sign. Well, that could be something different or another video, right? But anyways, May 28th and 29th, you're going to find that you're going to be like, oh, I'm more confident now. I've faced this, or I'm going to be doing this. But just don't rush anything. When you're making some decisions, especially more of a bigger decision, like I always write down the cons and the pros. What are the pros with it, and what are the cons of it? And then when you write it down on paper, you'll see it more. Well, I go over it in my mind. I get that. However, when you write it down on paper, you're going to see it right there, and you're going to be like, oh wow, there's like 15 pros, and there's maybe like 4 cons or whatever. Like you'll see it, right? So that's why I suggest doing this. And this is when you're going to want to be resetting certain things that didn't work out, let's say. So if you're like, you know what, I did this, or I started that, or this just isn't working out for me anymore, you might end it, right? You could be like, I'm just not passionate about it. I just don't want to do this anymore. Or you could be like, maybe I should tweak it up a little bit. Maybe I need to fix this up or fix that up, whatever it is. So this is the auspicious time to really do it, and really pay attention to where your heart's calling you. Where's your heart calling you to? Like, listen to your mind and your heart balancing together as one, and go with, what decision do I make? What decision brings you a peace of mind? Go with that. When you make a decision and you're like, that actually felt right, that for some reason, it just felt right. That's your soul talking to you. But if we make a decision based on fear and all of these things, it might not go as planned, right? You know? So now this is really important for you guys to, you know, really let go. Like, don't suppress your emotions. When we suppress our emotions from holding back, talking our truth with someone, or like whoever it is, it creates blockages because you're suppressing it. And you're going to see this week what you have been suppressing, what you have been ignoring. Like I'm saying, expect the unexpected with this Gemini new moon. When you grow, it's usually during crises and challenges and stuff like that, because at the end, you are gaining a lot of wisdom and experience from that. And you're like, oh, hell no, I'm not going through that anymore. There's there's no way I'm going through that anymore. So it's important to push through your pain and your fears because it does liberate you. It really does. And when we face our fears, we can be like, well, that wasn't as bad as what I thought. Exactly. Exactly. Right. But you have faced it. Like you have literally faced it. You got to dedicate to yourself. If you want things to happen, you have to set, like time for yourself, right? It's like, what, block out times, every day or whatever your schedule is like every week or whatever. Do you know what I mean? It's like if you want to make something happen, what times are you blocking out? Like, to work towards your goal or to whatever it is. So you're going to find that you're going to want to dedicate more to yourself. Schedule time for you to really take action and baby steps. And I always talk about short-term goals and long-term goals. Be very specific, be, like with what you want in detail. Be very, very, I like just manifested something myself and I'm like, holy, holy smokies. It's like, don't go into fear. Don't go into fear. Everything's okay. I'm like, oh my God. But you see what I mean? You have to be very specific with everything because what energy you send out comes back. It really does. Like every day I do prayers for peace on earth and all of that. Always, always. Right? As I've said, there's more changes in our world than there has been in over 10,000 years. That's been going on for quite some time. It's very obvious with what's going on. Everything is created and a creation from your soul. A lot of us are old souls. That's why I do past life Akashic record readings as well. It helps you understand why things are happening to you, what relationships, all of these things, right? So energy follows what you focus on. So if you're focusing on fear, it's going to create roadblocks, right? When you face your fear, you liberate it and you're like, boom, wow, high five to me. I just accomplished that. Yes, 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 yes. Maybe you're too scared to ask your person out or, whoever you got your eye on, and you're like, oh, I don't know. What if I get rejected? And I'm like, well, you're not going to know until you ask. This is soulmate twin flame vibes right now, you guys. Pay attention. Really pay attention to that. People get confused as well with twin flames. That's my twin. And I'm like, yeah, but they're a very karmic person for you. That might not go well. Just because you have a connection with someone and attracted to somebody does not mean that's your person. There could be a lot of karmic ramifications on that. That's why whenever I do readings, I will give you my full insights into all of it. And then it's your choice, of course, to make what direction you want to go with it. And whenever you're meditating, like I meditate every day, like I chant every day, I meditate every day. And when you're meditating, pay attention to where your body feels off. It could be like jolting, it could be like, oh, shaking or just different tension in your body, different areas, it doesn't matter where. Look at what part of the body that's coming. It could be your stomach, like your solar plexus, because that's like where emotions are stored. So if your stomach starts getting a little off, it shows you that your solar plexus is blocked. You're not facing your fears, right? Or you're worried about something. Really start listening to your intuition, right? Because it just shows it's a blocked chakra. That's why it's important to move our body. It's like when you're really stressed, there's many different ways to work through it, and it's like when you're moving your body around, going for walks or working out or whatever like that, you shuffle up the energy. If you're not, it stays stuck there and nothing happens. That's why it's like when I used to go to physiotherapy, I'd learned how to walk again years ago when I used to run every day and I shattered my feet, long story, right? So of course I wasn't really active. So my physiotherapist, which he was really hot, by the way, I might say, so where's that again, Roger? Can you bend over? Like, yeah. But so you learn different techniques, as you move your energy around and so on and so on. Life opens up because, if you hold on to something too tightly, the universe is like, well, she's holding on to this person or that situation or this too tightly. So we can't open these new doors because, they're not going to look this direction because you're only looking over that way. They're not open to what direction you very well could go towards because you're too scared, or you're not seeing it because you're too attached to certain someone or a certain thing. This is why it's important to surrender. Like I work towards my goals and everything, all of that, but I also surrender. I also surrender the outcome, right? So let's say if I was applying for a job, right? I would, especially if it's a job I want, a spirit, if this is the right job for me, as an example, it's going to happen automatically. I'm surrendering this for my higher self and my highest power, my highest calling. If that's going to happen, it's just naturally going to happen. And so on and so on and so on. There's a really, really big difference. Surrender. If this is meant to be, it's going to happen. But if you're sitting back and say, you know what, if it's meant to be, it's going to happen. And then you're like, well, why isn't anything happening? Are you working towards your goals? Are you? What action steps are you taking to make that happen? This is with this Aries energy. It's going to help you be more disciplined, taking more responsibilities, facing your fears, and so on and so on and so on. So now, how many of you guys have subscribed to my channel? How many of you are joining me right live here on YouTube on the 31st of May? How many of you? I'm going to be here. If you want to get a free reading by me, join me live on YouTube, May 31st, 12 noon Mountain Standard Time, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern, and ask me a question. Or if you want a full blown out detailed reading, soulworkwithjeni.com, book your reading. Okay, so I will talk with you all later. And what are you going to do? You're going to believe in yourself. You're going to start believing in yourself. Namaste.